Phil, welcome to the High Caliber Men podcast.
Second time lucky, Kieran.
Second time lucky. Hands up. I fucked up the audio last time. Being an absolute amateur that I am, but we're here now. We're going to do it the second time and the best time.
Excellent.
So, cool. I want to explain firstly why you're here and why I've asked you to come on the podcast and not just anyone else. And it came from a Facebook post through a mutual friend where you got tagged in it and it said something along the lines of you healed your 90-something-year-old mother of cancer and completely reversed it. And I was just like, what? And I've heard stories, stories from people who don't have a clue, kind of other side of the world, and these like out of the blue stories. But you're like a normal guy who has got a mutual friend, and I'm like, okay, I need to speak to this guy. So this is why we're here. We're going to share this story along with the healing journey you've been on, because it's been a hell of a journey. And I always like to start the podcast also with a big question to really grab the audience's attention, get them sucked in, and get them switched on. So that question for you, mate, is it possible to reverse or heal cancer without the traditional NHS route of chemotherapy, radiotherapy, etc.?
I think probably the worst thing you can do is to go for the chemotherapy and radiation. I'm not sure it's particularly healable on that. Every now and again they'll get reduction in tumours, but that's not what you need to be going for. You need to be stopping the process, not worrying about the actual lumps. You know, there's several times that you can get rid of, oh, look, my cancer's gone, and then it comes back even more aggressively in 5 years' time because they've destroyed what we inaccurately call the immune system with all these horrendous things, because they've got cut, burn, and poison, haven't they? Those are the three.
Cut it out, burn it out, and then put the poison
radiation. Those are the only options they've got. But it's not that uncommon. It's just that you don't ever see it on the mainstream media, on the sort of legacy media, let's call it, because I think podcasts are taking over these days, aren't they? And the legacy media is on the way out. Nobody's really listening to it anymore. It's all buoyed up with finance from the pharma companies, and nobody's really taking it seriously anymore, except for maybe your occasional very, very committed COVID enthusiast or something like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Cancer is basically a healing modality. It's just a healing process. It's not even really a disease. I mean, the body encapsulates certain toxins and certain areas of unusual cell replication, and it's doing its best, which is why quite often cancer will spread around the body when people go and get biopsies.
When they poke at it and open it up?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. When they go mess about with it. It's just not even really that uncommon. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying I'm some great healer. I'm not at all. There's just very simple principles which you tell people, they do it, and the body heals itself. And that's it. You know, it's not, we all have cancer cells in us at all times. And the body knows exactly what to do with them, and it mops them up. It's just when it gets too overloaded with various things, whether it's, you know, the environmental toxins we've got, the sort of chemicals we put on our body, the plants we eat, the vegetables, what we're told to
we'll get into,
add all the seed oils and stuff. We'll come to the carnivore bit, you know, I'm sure in this chat. But emotional stresses, EMFs, you know, all the radiation, artificial light. You know, we're sitting under these strip lights at the moment, and it's not good, is it? You have that sort of, you know, that's not real light. And looking outside thinking, I wish we were out there in the sunset.
I know, it could me mind to go out there with the boy races around here. We'll get disturbed.
With the cars and wind around, you know. Yeah, it would have been a risk. But yeah, your body craves natural light. Your body just craves things that are natural. And if you take away all of the things that cause cancer, if we know what they are, which we're not told what they are, the body tends to just heal it itself unless it's way too late. And even in some of those late stages, we see it happen. And it's like I have an autoimmunity course online, and it's called the subtraction method, because I wish it was all about pills and herbs, and we'd make so much more money, right? But no, I mean, if I do a consult with people, and I can't consult with them a lot, particularly with autoimmunity, particularly with rheumatoid and psoriatic arthritis, and you can tell somebody what to do in a consult or two, and then they're gone. It's a crap business model, but it's honest, and they don't have to buy supplements. They don't have to buy anything. And you just take away the things that are causing it. I think there's one of my favorite expressions is that if you're sitting on a pin, don't take an aspirin to get rid of the pain, get off the fucking pin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that makes sense in the whole healing thing. So it's not like, any sort of ego of like, oh, I heal cancer. I mean, nobody does that really. I mean, one of the best examples, I think, is if people look into Dr. Zsófia Clements and Paleomedicina in Hungary, and their clinical results on an extremely high-fat, fully carnivore diet, and just getting rid of so much cancers, reversing them, even complicated ones like glioblastomas. She's been on my old podcast, Red Pill Buddhas.
What's her name?
Clements.
Zsófia.
Zsofia Clemens. Clemens. And she's lovely. She's a good friend as well, and comes and speaks at our events in Spain that we put on. But the clinical results they have at Paleomedicina for reversing autoimmunity and cancer is amazing. Even glioblastomas. If you look into Andrew Scarborough's story, there's a lot of interviews with him online, and he had a glioblastoma 11 years ago, 12 years ago now. And that's like at 2 months and you're dead, and you have to have this operation and take a load of radiation to it.
And you reversed it?
Well, the operations, he did have some of it removed. They could never get all of it, particularly if it was as complicated a one as his. And then it usually comes back anyway. And the other side. Yeah, glioblastoma is nasty. But yeah, he had some of it removed, but he just went completely fully carnivore, really high fat, and he's absolutely fine to this day. He's coming up to 40. He looks about 25. He's absolutely great, and doing his own cancer research and stuff. In fact, he just ran a marathon yesterday. So he just finished a marathon. But yeah, very healthy, very intelligent, very inspiring dude. But his story's out there, so it's not uncommon. And I have a carnivore group on Facebook of like 20,000 or so, and there are bigger ones and similar ones and smaller ones. But within those groups, you see a lot of cancer reversals just on carnivore. But I mean, you're asking about my mum, and there is on the Phil Escott YouTube and cancer reversal shocking pick warning or something. You can find the video, which is quite kind of shadow bound. It's taken from a talk I gave to doctors and health professionals on the carnivore diet, like 2018, I think. And it's a weird thing to be posting pictures of your mum's norks at 93 years old on the internet.
Tits for you northerners.
Yeah. But it was with her permission, and it just shows the tumour just reversing, and it's really not uncommon. So, and it was funny, the docs were very open to it, because who I was giving the talk to, because they just they realised that they're not having very much success with it. And yeah, I did the old story that I told last time. I told on other interviews as well, but it's kind of funny. But what it was with my mum, we put her on a carnivore diet anyway. When she told me about this big lump, I was caring for her at the time. My old man had died. The NHS had killed him in 2003.
Not by cancer by any chance?
No. He had some tumour in his brain, and he was easily operable, but they didn't even figure out what it was. I was telling them it would be a tumour in the brain because he's lost the sight out of that side of his eye. There was nothing wrong with his eyes. So, okay, it's his brain. Come on. It's not rocket science. Oh, no, it's something inflammatory. We need to give him all this and that. Eventually, he was in hospital for about a month before they decided they were going to operate. And by that time, they'd given him so many drugs, they blew up his heart. He died of a heart attack. And there was nothing wrong with his heart when he went in there. And if I'd have known then what I know now, I could have got him out of there. Yeah. And got him to a good friend of ours who was a great neurosurgeon in Jordan, who the family's known since he was a kid. But anyway, I knew a lot more by the time my mum had this cancer, because I had to go through my own healing journey and learn a load around 2010, but we'll come to that. Yeah. And how I managed to figure out all these things. But we put her on a carnivore diet and we tried everything, all the SCAC teas. I thought I'll throw everything at it, all the things that are supposed to be anti-cancer, including the proper ganj oil, the RSO, the Rick Simpson oil. Yeah. Not your CBD stuff, but the stuff that gets you really mashed. That actually works. CBD oil is overpriced and it doesn't generally work. Anyway, I thought I'll give her some of that, and she was so stoned, and 93 years old and living in this flat on her own. I was in a big, like, 3-story house with her for quite some time after my dad died, and then she was kind of insufferable. My mum, love your mum, and she passed away now in 2018 from pneumonia, nothing to do with the breast cancer, but yeah, I kind of had enough, so I put her in a little flat, and I still looked after her. I was close by.
Mm-hmm.
But I did everything, blue blockers on at night, pushed her out in the sun that she hadn't been out in since the 60s, and some of that Kaniki tan through cape and swimming stuff, and and she was just too stoned on the gouge. It did actually start to regress on that in size, but then she was just too stoned. I go around there. I remember her once sweeping the lawn. So, what are you doing? I don't know. She was so, and it's something that's a bit difficult to handle the first times when you're 93 on your own. So anyway, then I just had this idea, because there's a lot of documented cases of people with fibrocystic breast syndrome or whatever, and you paint a load of iodine on the breast, and the lumps go down straight away, and also taking it orally, the Lugol's iodine. So I thought, well, okay, so it's supposed to be a hormonally driven tumor, and then the thyroid is quite often lacking in iodine, and the thyroid does control quite a lot of the hormones in women. And I just had an intuition, really, and I thought, let's give it a go. So I did put her on a 3-month iodine protocol, Lugol's iodine.
Lugol's? What's that?
Lugol's is just the process of making it. It's the type of iodine.
Right.
It's not even a make. People assume it's a make, but it's just the type of iodine and the combination of 2 different types of iodine. You just, anything, whatever brand it is, labeled Lugol's is the one to take. You take it.
And you just paint it on?
I painted it on, but also took her up to like 10 drops a day. But actually, we got lucky. You should be using a lot more than that if you're doing an iodine protocol for something serious. Now, here I am talking about supplements when I don't really approve of supplements, but every now and again, these things like magnesium, iodine, when boron even sometimes, when you really need it, as long as it's not in a pill with a load of fillers and full of deuterium and stuff that still keeps the gut leaky, all this crap they put in it. But actual proper iodine, nothing wrong with that, if you need it. So anyway, gave her a course of that and painted it on. Then after about 3 months, she said, well, I'd kind of given up. And I'd said to her oncologist, who thought I was mad, I said, well, I tell you what, I'll try all of these things, but if it doesn't work, would you, because I have a lot of experience of seeing people's autoimmunity reverse.
Yeah.
Not so much personally with helping people with cancer. Generally, if a client comes to me with cancer, I send them off to paleomedicina to go talk to Zofia, because she really understands about it. It's actually the same process. It's not rocket science. But anyway, so we went back in, because I'd said to him, the oncologist, can you take it off on a local? Just take the breast off if it ulcerates through the skin, because it was close to doing that. And because she's 90 old, I don't want to really have a general anaesthetic. It can be a bit dodgy at that age. And so he said, yeah, sure. And so this appointment came up, and I went back, and one day she just said, it's disappearing. I thought, no, it disappeared really fast. When it does, when tumors go naturally, they seem to go really, really quickly. It's actually quicker, I think, to fix cancer than it is to fix autoimmunity quite often.
Right.
but this tumor was going really quickly, and the skin was coming back to normal. Everything. I was amazed myself to see that happen so fast. And so this appointment came up. We went back to the oncologist, and he said, I just thought I'll let him just examine her, because he was looking cocky. He was thinking, yeah, he's failed. They come back in for a breast op, and you could see him. He just sort of stopped dead like that. And he looked at it, and he turned around. And he said, "How on earth did you do that?" And I said, "Well, I told you how I was going to do it, and you just thought I was a nutter, and it wasn't going to work." He was actually quite a cool guy, but he still thought I was a nutter. Yeah. He wasn't aggressive like some rheumatologists I've run into. And I said, so is that the first natural cancer reversal you've seen? You're an oncologist. And he went, yeah, it's the first one. And I said, well, I've seen quite a few and I'm a drummer. And, it really isn't rocket science. We've been fear-mongered about cancer so badly. And we're told all the things that that cause it, we think. Or I don't think they even think that they cause it, the people up the top. It's just the people perpetuating these myths to sell all their ridiculous chemo and stuff, which is a huge cash cow. I mean, there's a law, isn't there, that you're not allowed to say that you cured cancer. You can sort of get away with it saying reversed or whatever, but that video is seriously shadow banned. I mean, I called it breast cancer reversal shocking pick warning or something. I thought that's going to go viral.
Yeah.
And another little section of that talk that I did that was just called meat myths or something got like about 300,000 views. And then that breast one, 3,000, something like that in all these years. And they don't like it. They don't like these cancer reversals. It gets pushed down by the algorithm. But there was a time when people who were claiming this sort of thing were getting bumped off. If you talk too much about cancer reversals, you ended up mysteriously face down in a swimming pool, floating around.
Or disappearing, I've heard stories like that too.
Yeah.
Let's go on to your journey then, Phil, rheumatoid arthritis. Because for a long time, you were a vegan.
Only into vegetarian. Yeah,
vegetarian
for a good 30 odd years.
Okay,
yeah.
And you went from that to obviously now full carnivore. Talk us through that process. How do you go from no doubt being a diehard kind of plant person to now a meat person?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, I think I grew up. I was born in 1962, so I'm an old dude. I'm 63 next month. And when I grew up, it was just the world was a different place. There wasn't so much glyphosate sprayed on the food. There wasn't all these other influences going on. Even the bulbs were like incandescent. We didn't have any of these LED things, so we didn't have this blazing sunlight in the middle of the night, or even more blue light than the sun. It was a different world, and a bit of cereal in the morning, meat and 2 veg, and it was fine. It was
proper food.
I was okay. But then at about 18 years old, I started to get really fascinated with the whole spiritual side of life and getting into, around that time, it was huge heroic doses of psilocybin mushrooms. But then I realized, no, I really wanted to go down that sort of yogi path and meditation and that kind of thing. I ended up traveling around the free festivals and then moving up to Skelmersdale, where I live now in England, which is like the English capital of the transcendental meditation movement. And so I thought, I'm just going to give up playing. I was playing a load of jazz and stuff in London and weird world music. And I thought, no, I'm going to retire from drums at, what was I? Let me see, 24 years old. Going to retire from music. And I'm going to go up and just be a yogi the rest of my life in Skelmersdale. Anyway, that kind of drags you into that whole veggie eating thing, because you get that it's sort of all based in the sort of Hindu thing of you're never going to get enlightened if you eat meat and all this absolute nonsense.
You can meditate better if you only eat plants and all that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah, no, you're just generally spaced out because you've got no nutrients in the brain. That's what it is. But yeah, we all thought that we were nicely spaced out, and no, it's nonsense. But yeah, that got me into that, and then I really studied it from that angle. And so I think the first book I wrote was in sort of early to mid 90s, and that was on Ayurveda and all the Vata, Pitta, and Kapha doshas and how food balances this out and that out. And I didn't realize that until quite a bit later that this is just nature's polypharmacy, eating all those plants and then getting one plant to balance out the horrible effects of another plant, and then you need this plant medicine, and then this Ayurvedic medicine, and then this. To me, it's the same as the pharmaceutical industry. It's just plants all have toxins. It's basic botany, and so you're just setting one toxin off against another. Excuse me. But if you don't eat any of those toxins in the first place, you don't really need any of these plant medicines or Ayurvedic medicines or anything. People are going to be up in arms now. Oh my God, how can you survive without plants? Well, I would never. I thought that there was some point where I would become some kind of non-dual teacher or something. Never did I ever think that I would be this English carnivore guy who makes all these videos about it, does these interviews, and never would I have guessed in a million years. It was the most insane thing to eat nothing but meat. But in the sort of mid-80s, when I started really going vegetarian, and through the 90s, I started to get niggles, like joint things here and there, sinus issues, just stuff going on, serious rosacea, and sort of body temperature control going. Eventually, cysts on the liver, cysts on the kidneys, all those kind of things. And then, I ran a gym at the end of the 90s, got quite big, which is difficult to imagine being stick thin like I am now. But, and there were sort of niggles. I knew how to train, real heavy, real abbreviated. I'd figured all that out. It was great. But I didn't figure out how to eat. I just ate anything as long as it had some kind of protein in it. And rice and broccoli and loads of stuff. And it was, the joints were not that great. And something was brewing. At the end of the 90s, I could feel it. And my wrist had been bothering me since the early 90s when it was diagnosed wrong as Kienbock's disease. So I'm glad it wasn't diagnosed as any sort of inflammatory arthritis then, because I'd probably have taken their meds and I'd have been in a terrible state. But and then going through from 2001, 2002 onwards, it was still what I call plant-based, because a regular diet is plant-based. Let's be true about that. Even people who eat meat, they eat 90% plants usually. They'll have cereal for breakfast, they'll have a sandwich for lunch, they'll have pasta for dinner. And these are the people that they do studies on to claim that meat is bad when the sort of meat that they have is a pepperoni pizza.
Yeah.
Right? So, not how our ancestors ate, good fatty meat from ruminant animals and very little else, if anything. But anyway, through the 90s, through the 2000s, I was just eating, whatever I wanted. It was mostly plant-based, like a lacto-ovo vegetarian thing, where I'd survive on, crunching up cornflakes, cheese on toast, and then try and be healthy by making some rice and dal and veg. And then you just spend the whole evening farting and taking antacids because, it's ridiculous. And the doctors, I was totally teetotal for 30 years. And the doctors around that time used to ask me, was I an alcoholic after my blood results? Because I had a fatty liver, I had cysts on the liver was all out of balance. And now I have to admit, I pack away the old brandy and I have nothing wrong with my liver. The whole thing's sorted itself out. So, but anyway, through those, the 2000s, I ended up quite a fat bastard. My before and after picture is quite spectacular. And I ended up pretty stodgy. And then in 2010, all hell broke loose completely. And coming back from a holiday in Thailand, and just one ankle blew up, and I thought, oh, it's all right. It's an old damage from falling off a climbing wall one time, and then it didn't go away. And then the other ankle blew up, and then the left knee, and then it all went through all my body, and I was just completely crippled. And it was agony, absolute suicidal pain. And I thought, this has come on very fast. Of course it hadn't. It had been warning me for decades.
Yeah.
And if you listen to those whispers, like I was always down at chiropractors getting my sacroiliac joints crunched out. And that's often where it starts. People have repeated sacroiliac issues. I always am suspicious of that now. In clients who come to me, I go, you nip that in the bud, nip it in the bud, because you don't know where that's going. But and then I had to throw out all I thought I knew, because first of all, I thought, well, the thing I really need to do is to go even more veggie. So I went vegan, and then I went raw vegan, and then I went fruitarian. And then I was having, spinach smoothies every day with, just fruit and some avocado in there and sort of a load of honey. And it was just a load of sugar and oxalates, basically. And I paid for it because I ended up with a massive kidney stone from the oxalates, from probably close to a lethal dose of spinach smoothies every day. Because yes, there is a lethal dose of spinach smoothies. I learned that from you, and it really kind of triggered something in my mind of, wow, you can actually really have a lethal dose of spinach. Like, logic just makes sense that you shouldn't be probably eating that if you can have a lethal dose of it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, I think it's something like 3,000 milligrams a day or something, and I was taking in probably about 1,000 new spinach smoothies. It's not that will kill everybody, but that around that kind of dosage, I believe, is possibly a lethal dose for people. I mean, there was this, not so long ago, I think, there was a French guy and his missus made him some sorrel soup, and that's really high in oxalates. And he died. He had 3 bowls of it and died. And his missus, I think she got very sick. She didn't die. She only had a couple of bowls. But
Wow.
yeah, oxalates are very nasty. And they're also nasty on the way out. There were a lot of plant toxins. It's a massive subject.
Mm-hmm.
But, anyway, I went that route and ended up really emaciated. And brain fog. My brain wasn't working. And kidney stones. And it didn't really do much for the joints either. Except the times when I completely fasted. But I was doing a load of water fasting, which... is all very well, and it will take the inflammation out, but it's not giving you what you need to heal. But it gives tremendous relief, fasting. But the trouble is I also hadn't tweaked onto the fact that water fasting does burn up a load of muscle because the body goes in and has to eat itself. Whereas dry fasting is looking more for water, so it blows up all the unusual cells and cysts and tumours and
water because you're not getting water, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's looking for cells that aren't used. So it would choose the ones that are not necessary, picking, say, cysts and tumours and whatever first. I mean, I would say if somebody's diagnosed with pancreatic cancer or something, you've got 2 months, 3 months to live, do an 11-day dry fast. No water, no food.
11 days? Can you survive that long?
God, yeah. People do longer. Right. People go, oh, God. Don't you die after 3 days? Well,
that's what I thought.
Possibly if you're out in the desert sweating like hell. Possibly. But if you're sitting at home chilling out now, you're not even thirsty after 3-4 days. And I've not done more. I've done an 11-day water fast, but that was losing me a load of muscle. And that was back in 2010, 2011, desperately trying to get out of this agony that I was in when I hadn't figured out what was actually causing it yet. But dry fasting, I mean, there's 2 independent Russian researchers. One's called Filanov, the other one I can't remember. But they both came to this conclusion separately that 11 days is the kind of magical time for really blowing up any serious ailments.
Wow.
You go through certain levels of ketosis and then apoptosis, autophagy, where the body repairs itself. There's nothing quite as powerful as a dry fast.
Wow.
I mean, if you don't have anything massively life-threatening immediately, then a high-fat carnivore diet is probably the simplest, easiest, gentlest way to do it. You don't need to do that fasting if you're eating right. But for people who don't think that, say, something like arthritis has anything to do with the diet, just get them to fast. Oh, my God, all the symptoms are gone. And then they eat again, and the symptoms come back. And so that's where I was, kind of emaciated around 2011, 2012 from veganism. And just discovering about keto diets from amazing people like Natasha Campbell-McBride and her GAPS diet books, and Jack Cruz, who ended up doing a foreword to my book, Arthritis, the Best Thing That Ever Happened to Me, which I wrote a couple of years later. And I discovered, we should be eating a ton of meat and very fatty meat. But of course you need a few healthy veg with it, don't you? Of course you do, because you need plants. You need the fibre for digestion. Well, 5 a day, everything points to some plants. You can't just eat meat. That would be insane. Anyway, that went on for about 3 years, till about 2015, and I was a hell of a lot better. But I noticed that I just felt better on the days where I didn't put those roast veg into the oven and have them with the meat.
So you were still having bits now and again?
Yeah, little bits of healthy veg. No bread, no rice, no pasta, no grains of any sort, nothing like that. No carbs. I was too focused on the carbs.
Yeah.
Carbs are not really an issue. Those aren't really the problem as such. It's the fiber and the plant toxins that come with the carbs that rip your guts to bits and then get through in the bloodstream, and then the body creates antibodies to it and then attacks it when it's lodged in the tissues. There is no such thing as autoimmunity. There we go. I've explained it that quickly. The body does not attack itself. Because when the gut's healed and these toxins stop going through, the body still has antibodies towards those toxins, like glutens and lectins and stuff like that. But the symptoms are gone. Once the toxins are released from any part of the body, there's no inflammation. So it's not autoimmunity, is it? The body doesn't attack itself. It's not molecular mimicry, like some people say, or the stupid rheumatologists that just say, oh, well, it's attacking itself and we don't know why. Absolute morons. And then you get to the molecular mimicry thing where, the body's attacking these glutens, but then there's little molecules somewhere that kind of look similar in the bodily tissue and it attacks it. I don't believe that either.
Yeah, no, I don't believe that. I think the body's too clever.
The body knows what it's doing. And so it's just clearing the toxins.
I don't think the body would make a mistake of, that looks similar, I'll just have that as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But I mean, whatever's causing it, or whatever process it is, once you've healed the gut and those toxins aren't going through anymore, nothing happens. And you're fine, you're symptom free. It might take a while to heal the gut. But, with autoimmunity, like things like IBS, Crohn's, it's very quick. The gut really repairs itself very quickly. Things like arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis can take a bit longer, lupus, things like that. But yes, it comes together in time. And then you get the things like multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's. Once the nerves are damaged, it can take longer still, because there's not such good blood supply to the nerves to actually rebuild it.
And you can throw like MSME in there as well, can you?
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, ME is not really nerve damage exactly, is it? But MS, multiple sclerosis, definitely, and Parkinson's. But those things they're all reversible.
Yeah.
There's nothing I've seen that even paleomedicine hasn't seen reversed, apart from maybe what's it called, ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, horrendous, wasting, an awful disease, and not seen anyone reverse that. I was talking to Sophia about it when my best friend from school got it. He was always like beautifully good looking, ripped, muscly, whatever he did, whatever crap he ate, however many pints of beer he drank and cocaine he sniffed, however many Indian takeaways he lived on, he always looked amazing. But then, bang, it hit him. And he died just before his 60th birthday. And he was wasted away at like 7 stone by then.
Wow.
And in a motorized wheelchair and absolutely fucked. And he was an amazing character, amazing dude. Really miss him. But great musician, everything. We just got on so well. We knew each other since school. But never seen it reversed. Never seen that reversed. But everything else, and there might be a case out there. If anyone's listening to this, who knows? But yeah, everything else. Thyroid issues, Hashimoto's, Graves' disease, PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, or what did somebody call it the other day? Plant something caused or something with it. Yeah, and it is. But all these things can be reversed. Well, it's just the body doing it. It's just taking away. There's nothing magical about meat. You're going, what's so magical about meat? I eat meat, but I've still got this ailment. Yeah, because you eat 70% plants with your meat.
Yeah.
You have a steak and you'll have chips with it. You'll have a salad with it. You'll have if you have just that steak on its own without the chips and salad, you will get more nutrition than with the chips and salad.
What was that study you mentioned last time about the oysters and zinc or something?
Yeah, the oysters and the zinc. They did a study to try and find out how much the body's zinc levels went up when you ate oysters, because it's very high in zinc. And so they got a group of people, split them into 3. One group they gave just oysters, one group oysters and black beans, one group oysters and tortillas. The group that had just the oysters, the zinc levels increased a lot. The oysters and black beans, not very much. Oysters and tortillas, no zinc increase. I think that's really does show you that there are a load of anti-nutrients in the plants.
These are these oxalates.
All sorts of things that block the uptake of these nutrients. If anybody at this point, I always mention Anthony Chaffee, my good friend Anthony Chaffee, the sort of carnivore rock star and neurosurgeon, and he's got a video. Go watch it after you watch this. It's about an hour long, or there's a few videos. I think there's one that's half an hour, but it's the same kind of thing. Or he talks about it also on my channel at our Spain retreat last year. Plants Are Trying to Kill You by Anthony Chaffee. Go watch it. I've known since 2015 about plant toxins, enough not to have eaten any. So I've been fully carnivore for 10 years now. But what Anthony actually goes through in that, 136 known carcinogens in an organic Brussels sprout and 60 in the least toxic veg.
Wow.
And so when you look at the tribes, they only eat it as starvation food. They'll have a tuber now and again. They'll have berries and nuts. They're nice, but they're only in season. And in the winter, in the ice ages, in the north, it's not available. So you're not getting much. And none of the plants that are available in the shops now. So all these things that we're told are superfoods are really toxic. It's basic biology. None of these tribes eat stalks and leaves. That's the part of the plant it doesn't want you to eat. And so it has the most toxins in there. Broccoli, kale, spinach, all this crap. It's incredibly toxic. And again, focusing more on the oxalates, there's a great book called Toxic Superfoods by Sally K. Norton. and she's been on my podcast, The Red Pill Buddha's as well. You find it on my channel. But, so many things oxalates cause, whether on the way in or the way out. On the way out, they're causing kidney stones. I mean, 95% of kidney stones are calcium oxalate. And this comes from the oxalates that we've eaten. And it lodges everywhere, like little shards of glass in the thyroid, in their reproductive organs, in the eyeballs, in the joints, everywhere. And it can, if some people who form stones, then that's what happens on the way out. And unfortunately, that's one of the downsides of carnivore, if you like, that when you do go keto or carnivore and stop eating the oxalates, if you've had an overload of them, then the body does tend to dump them quite quickly. And so which is okay, but you can slow it down. I won't go into that with various citrates, but the processes in Sally Norton's book, if you are having trouble with dumping them too quickly. But when you go carnivore, then you're not having any oxalates coming in, and so the body can dump them. And that is one of the problems. Well, let's not call it a problem. It's just one of the things you have to get over in the adaptation phase. That kind of keto flu with the electrolytes as the kidneys start to change over to being happy running on ketones rather than glucose. There are certain things in the adaptation phase, but a month to 2-3 months, you're clear of that stuff, except for the oxalates. God's sake, it can go on for years. I poisoned myself so much. I was talking to Sally. I hadn't eaten an oxalate for like 8 years. I got a kidney stone in 2022. I passed this one on my own. I didn't have to have it lasered out like the big motherfucker in 2012. But it was horrendously painful, and they can take decades to come out of the body.
You mentioned the thyroid as well. Just a kind of thought off the top of mind there is hypothyroidism a build-up of oxalates, or is that something completely different? Because a lot of people I know kind of will have slow thyroid. They go to the GP, they do the tests, they get the tablets. What's the kind of details with the thyroid and oxalates then?
Well, it's not always oxalates. The oxalates can get into the thyroid and they can cause issues, but the main issue with people's thyroids is the halides. So people get low in iodine. They don't uptake the iodine because they're full of bromides, from bromine in the bread and things like that people get from their diet, which lodges in the thyroid and displaces iodine. Chlorine, fluoride, the worst one. That really messes up your thyroid. All those halides, which are not essential to the body, they can get into the thyroid and block it up, and so it can't uptake the iodine. There are processes you can do it with, like a boron protocol and other things, and then an iodine protocol, and a carnivore diet without any more of those toxins going in. And I've seen, Hashimoto's gets reversed pretty easily. Graves' disease, which my missus had, that's a little bit more sketchy to get rid of, which is where it's hypothyroidism rather than hypo. But a similar process to get rid of it, but it can be a bit more tricky to get rid of. But the thyroid is just, you give it what it needs and get the stuff out of it that it doesn't need, and it sorts itself out. Yeah. Like any other organ in the body. Yeah. And it happens over and over again. The trouble is, we've been told to eat 5 a day, eat a load of fiber, and fiber is another myth. Fiber causes all the problems it's said to cure.
Just before we go into that, it's quite clear now that the information the government give out is stay away from salt, eat lots of fiber, have all these different health foods, and then when you get ill, you go to the doctors, take all these pharmaceutical drugs, which then often have different side effects, and you have to then stay on them because they never actually get down to the root cause. The root cause is often the advice that they're originally given. It's almost beautifully set up to make people sick, and it was an eye-opening moment for me. Funnily enough, I watched Dirty Dancing, right? And I watched Dirty Dancing, and I thought, you know what? Everyone on that program or film, not one of them's overweight. They all look healthy as hell, and not healthy as what we'd call, in my eyes anyway, today's healthy. Today's healthy is like you go to the gym and you exercise quite a lot, and you take supplements, and that's like healthy. Back then, they weren't gym goers. They were just lean, what would probably say is normal, but looked super healthy. Not a spot in sight, glowing skin, lovely long hair, a lot of them. and they could dance as well. So it was very clear that, like, hang on, what was back then? What is now that wasn't back then? And I was weighing up the kind of pros and cons. And I was thinking it's definitely a lot harder to be healthy these days with the way the world is. But yeah, the way that you've just put it across there as well, I think it's so clear now. The general advice you get is setting you up to get sick. So then when you go to the doctors, you have to get the pharmaceuticals, which then you have to stay on, and you never get off. Is that accurate, would you say?
Yes. Well, it's when I have a client come to me, it's always much more difficult to help them when they've had a load of those meds, because that's also damaged the body horribly and made the gut even more leaky. And it's very difficult once they've been on the meds. And it's suppressed inflammation. There's no such thing as bad inflammation. The body's doing what it needs to do, and then you need to let it run with that, not shut down the inflammatory pathways. You need to shut down the leaky gut so that the stuff it doesn't get through that it needs to inflame. Yeah, and then when you add in the jabs and stuff, it gets very complicated. But we won't go on too much about that and get your channel blown up. But, But I think the issue about that is it really is illustrated by a story that Anthony Chaffee told. I didn't hear this, but he was saying he'd heard an interview with somebody in the pharma world, and somebody asked him, "What's your favorite drug?" Thinking that he would say, "Well, there's this wonderful drug that's cured all these kids of such and such," or something like that. And he actually said really openly, "My favorite drug is one that creates side effects that we can sell other drugs for." And like, jaw-dropping. There it is.
Yeah.
It's a business.
Yeah.
They're beholden to their shareholders, and they need to make these trillions, and that's it. And no, there are a few drugs that are quite useful short term, and they're mostly ones that are out of patent now that they don't actually make any money on, so they don't push them. Like, for example, there's low dose naltrexone treatment for people who really can't eat properly. That can help in a different way to shutting down the inflammatory pathways. It can help people with autoimmunity and cancer, actually. Very low dose. Naltrexone is a drug that was made for alcoholics and addicts. So they take that, and then their drug of choice is really unpleasant to them, that kind of thing. And there was still no liver damage. There was no problems at like 50 to 300 milligrams a day, a dose. But with low dose naltrexone, you're taking like 3 to 4.5 milligrams. And I took it for a while. I took it from like 2012 to 2013, 2014. And it helped me to be able to eat a few veg, and it helped me to be able to have the odd bowl of double cream, stevia, and berries. The sort of thing that really doesn't work with autoimmunity, but it takes the edge off. So then in 2015, I decided I don't want to be reliant on anything anymore, even though it's harmless compared to the horrific drugs they give out for in rheumatology. The biologics that cost like 5,000 quid a month and don't work, blow up your liver and God knows what. And the hand-me-down cancer drugs like methotrexate that they try and get you on. Awful things. But anyway, so I tried this LDN because I was convinced it was completely safe and absolutely fine. And yeah, it was. It didn't really do me any harm. But it allowed me to eat the veg and the cream and berries. And I started to actually put some weight on again. Not weight that I particularly wanted. But when I went fully carnivore in 2015, I just thought, even with the LDN, I found out that when I didn't have any veg, I felt a lot better. So I stopped it. I just stopped cooking it. And I just ate meat. And there wasn't really anything around in those days. There wasn't so much info about it.
Yeah.
I just felt, what the hell? I mean, I've been carnivore longer than most of these carnivore gurus out there who are online. But it took me a while. Like the first 4 years carnivore, I had basically meat, butter, and some cheese sometimes. And then I was okay. My joints were fine. But then I noticed that when I gave that up, when I gave the dairy up, just abs popped out again. I had sinus issues cleared up. It was amazing. I did that to support the missus because Zophira paleomedicina are told you can't even have a molecule of dairy if you've got to heal that Graves' disease.
Right.
And in a lot of things, I think that paleomedicina put dairy up with grains and seed oils as the most dangerous thing. Yeah, they're really not fans of it. And people go, oh, well, dairy's so healthy, particularly raw dairy. Raw dairy can actually be worse because it's got more growth factors left without the pasteurization. But it's also got more lactase that helps people digest it better. So they think it's fine. They don't get the digestive issues, don't feel like they're lactose intolerant. But long term, it can be even worse because there's more growth factors. And in an adult animal, that means cancer. So who knows? But I know that in my clients, the autoimmune clients, once I get them to drop the dairy, much better. And also women who hit weight loss, well, let's call it fat loss, because we don't want weight loss, we don't want muscle loss or bone density, we want fat loss. But they hit a fat loss plateau on carnivore. It's always, you're still eating some butter? Oh, not that much. Just drop it out. Just trust me.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. The fat's falling off again.
Yeah. You mentioned something last time. I think the phrase was 95% of the results come when you do or drop the last 5%.
Yeah, that's an Anthony Chaffee thing.
Is it? Yeah.
95% of the benefits come when you drop the last 5% of the plants. Unless you've tried it, nobody believes you. It's insane, isn't it? How would you ever survive without fiber? People, the two most common questions: what do you have for breakfast? And how do you have a poo? Best poos of my life. And I think I mentioned this to you last time, but I was on Sean Baker's show, and we were talking about that, and I said that my turds could be on the cover of the Bristol Stool Chart Glamour calendar now. Perfect. Want to wake Detta up and go, look at that. Crowd pleaser. It's perfect. Because I'm just so thankful for it after years of shitting like 5 times a day or more and just blasting the toilet with all this plant matter. Oh, isn't it healthy to have 5 poos a day? No, it's not. Your body really doesn't do that unless it's trying to get rid of something that you're poisoning it with. It really needs to get it out. And it's the fiber is a complete myth.
Let's go with that fiber. So let's continue with that. Why is that a myth then?
Because it actually does everything that it's said to cure. Okay, if you eat a really stodgy diet, like say a load of white bread and sugar and whatever, you might well get constipated. And then people put some fiber through, and it does tend to move it along. But this isn't really what constipation is. It's usually people who get really constipated are people who eat a load of fiber, and then they try and eat more and more, and it all gets awful. And then they end up on actual laxatives, taking Senecot and crap like that. It's the plants just bulking up and not being able to be, moved through. What stops constipation on a diet is enough fat. You eat enough fat, you'll be absolutely fine. And so some people go carnivore and then they go, oh, I haven't had a poo for a couple of days. Oh, I must be constipated. Where you say, have you got any of the problems that you had before with constipation? Have you got any bloating, any pain? No, nothing like that, because it's very rare to fart on a carnivore diet, whereas before it was just like constant on vegetarian diets. A friend of mine says that the worst thing about going carnivore is that you can no longer light your farts. But if that's the worst thing, there you go.
Yeah.
It's. Do you think that the Sami, the Inuit, the Maasai, these are carnivore cultures? Do they ever have a poo? Do they die of constipation? No, they don't. In fact, they don't die of anything that we die of. They die of lion attacks and old age and infections maybe. And of course, the average age sometimes gets brought down by infant mortality. So people say, they only live to 30 or 40.
Right.
No. When they get to 80, 90, even over 100, even up to 120, I've seen. Dancing with the tribe, absolutely fine, full faculties, and they've eaten nothing but meat.
All their life.
The ones who come off that and then eat the Western food, like the seed oils and the ugali that they make, that horrible grainy sort of stuff, they're all fat. And they're getting the same disease as we do. It's not like they've got tremendous genetics or anything. They've got, they get exactly as bad as we do, as do the Inuit now when all the Western plant foods have got there. The Native American Indians used to live up to 130. They're like 7 foot tall, and they used to just eat buffalo. That was it. And then they messed it up with that. And now look at what they are now. They're very much huge problems with diabetes, overweight, alcoholism. They're in a terrible state.
They're just getting westernized, aren't they, by the sounds of it?
Yeah, they are. And the same thing happened to the Inuit and the Aborigines in Australia. You know, they got back there, and there was a project where it's filmed, isn't it? Who was it? Anyway, one of the Australian sort of carnivore keto type guys went out and got them back onto their original diet, and all their diabetes is reversing straight away. Diabetes is an easy one. It goes in like a couple of months.
I've got a client at the moment, he's got type 2, and I think he's only been following carnivore, not even massively super strict, not extreme carnivore, just standard, let's say. I don't know.
Don't need to be for diabetes.
And his blood sugars have never been better. And I think he'll probably about a month and he'll be reversed. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's amazing. But yeah, and again, the Aborigines, same thing. So they went in there, got them back on the traditional diet. These things, all these problems they had reversed. And we've forgotten how to eat. And, you know, going back to those veg that we're told to eat, those 5 a day, they didn't exist more than a couple of hundred years ago. They're all crossbred and selectively bred from brassica plants. You know, if you want to mess up your thyroid, then have, broccoli and cauliflower. If you want to blow your kidneys up, have spinach and kale. If you want your gut to be really leaky, have the ones with lectins in, have all the nuts and the potatoes and things like that. Not good. But if we ate, people go, well, that's extreme. That's it. Not really. The thing is that when you're really sick, would the ideal diet be something with no toxins and everything that you needed? And that there is basically only one food that gives you that. And that is fatty meat from ruminant animals with multiple stomachs, like sheep, goats, cows, beef, lamb, whatever.
Goat is probably good, isn't it?
Yeah, great. Yeah. Bison, deer, venison, stuff like that is absolutely fine, although that can be a bit low fat. If you're healing up, you need really, really high fat. And that keeps you regular as well. So you'll never be constipated. You'll never have any of these grains and lectins ripping your guts to bits and then getting through into the joints, causing pain. There was another study, and I don't like quoting studies much because most of them are really biased crap, that comes from the pharma companies, the big food companies, and particularly from the Seventh-day Adventists. And a lot of this lunatic vegetarian stuff comes from, through the spiritual and religious channels somehow. But this great study, 64 people, they got idiopathic constipation. Idiopathic means the doctors have no idea why. And so they took all the fiber out of their diet in an experiment to see what would happen. They probably thought they'd all blow up and die. Because that's the worst thing to do. You got 64 constipated people take all the fiber out of their diet. What a crazy thing to do. They all got better. All of them. And it's in PubMed. It's the World Journal of Gastroenterology, I think. And at the end, you can see we're going to have to seriously reconsider the role of fiber in the diet. And, that obviously never gets put out to the public because all the big money that's made on food is processed seed oils and grains, basically made into all sorts of different shapes, whether it's Harvey Kellogg's anti-masturbation cornflakes or whether it's some horrible biscuit or it's something like that. They're all the same. And it's a complete con. You don't need any of it. And we've been lied to yet again.
Let's go on to toxins because we've keep mentioning this word. I also want to look at inflammation. These are things that we all kind of hear, but don't fully know what they are. Now, I asked you last time what toxins were, and you said it beautifully, and I can't have a clue what you said. I don't know if you can remember exactly what you said, but toxins, what are they?
Well, there's anything really that the body doesn't need to survive. So they can come from anything. They can come from, artificial fibers in clothes. They can come from the soaps that we use. They can come from the bath water where we're soaking ourselves in chlorine every day, if they've got that in there, or fluoride or whatever's in there. It goes in through the skin as well. Any sort of toxin that causes disruption in the body. In a dietary sense, I said there is only one food that gives us everything we need and nothing we don't. And that is fatty meat from ruminant animals. So anything else, if we ate a few berries and nuts seasonally, we wouldn't have noticed. If we had a great gut integrity, we were healthy otherwise, we had the sunlight to deplete the toxins and deuterium, all of these things, we would have been absolutely fine. But now, if you do get really sick, you have got an overload of toxins. And that's really what it is. You're not sick, you're toxic, I think is the expression, isn't it?
I like it.
Yeah.
You're not sick, you're toxic. I like it. That's a good one.
Yeah. And so, once these toxins get through and they lodge in the body, they've got to be cleared out. And that is inflammation, where the body clears out problems, damage, or toxins by inflaming. And if you don't stop putting the toxins in, the body's going to get chronically inflamed, and then it's going to come out as some diagnosable horrible disease, which a lot of them are rooted in inflammation. And then they confuse you by having different departments in hospital. Now, we have a human body. Everything works in conjunction with everything else. You don't need a kidney specialist. You don't need a liver specialist. It keeps them focused on a narrow band of nonsense that they're given at med school. And allows them to sell drugs for specific ailments instead of treating a human being.
Yeah.
So they're treating individual ailments. You go in, you break your little finger, and it's like, I'm sorry, this is the left little finger department. You've got to go to the right little. It's ridiculous. They should have an accident and emergency and a human body department.
and look at it as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're two departments. It's not rocket science. The body knows what to do better than any doctor, better than any diet guru, better than anybody. And so toxins, the body will inflame to clear out these toxins. It has to. And some of them are very deep rooted, so the inflammation can be chronic. And I understand, because I've been through this twice now. I actually got very sick again in 2022, which I haven't put all the weight back on from, actually. But it was worse, actually, than 2010. Suicidal pain, and it was because I messed about with just pork, chicken, dairy, and eggs.
Really?
And not just beef and lamb. I mean, I can take those occasionally, although I prefer zero dairy. But pork, chicken, they've been fed crap. The animals get fed crap. They're in horrible CAFOs, factory farming situations under artificial light, being fed soy and grains that they're not adapted to. So the meat is not always that good. But good grass-fed beef and lamb, that's all you need. And yeah, you can eat that stuff occasionally. But I was traveling, I was doing gigs with Daz Band around the festivals. I was eating that kind of stuff, and there was other stresses and all sorts of influences around that time. I won't put a tinfoil hat on, but even some carnivores who had reversed autoimmunity and who hadn't taken any jabs were having recurrences of autoimmunity around that winter of 2022.
Right.
I don't know exactly what was happening. Might never know. But I think I did overload the chicken, pork, dairy, and eggs, which people go, oh, well, that's carnivore. Yes, if you've got diabetes and you eat nothing but chicken, pork, dairy, and eggs, you'll reverse it.
Yeah.
But it depends how deep it's gone, what the toxins are that you need to clear. And sometimes, the body remembers these things.
Yeah.
So people go, oh, you've got carnivore. Now you can't eat anything else. You're sensitive to other things. Possibly. But when they get through, the body has those antibodies already to that stuff. It's remembered. It's very, very bright. So maybe for years you got away with pizza and pasta and cereal, but now, no, you might be in trouble. So yeah, a lot of people do have to stay quite strict. I feel much better when I just beef lamb. That's it. Beef and lamb, fatty beef and lamb is incredible.
When I've been kind of explaining this to clients, I'd like kind of your opinion on this, but I almost view it now as the more extreme ailment you have, so if it is kind of autoimmune or anything along those lines, the more extreme carnivore you need to go. And they're kind of, let's say if you just want to lose a little bit of weight and you've got no ailments whatsoever, you could be a little bit more flexible and still get all the benefits of it almost. Yeah. Is that right, almost that, because I know obviously you've had a rheumatoid. No, you had rheumatoid?
It's all the same. Psoriatic, rheumatoid. They give it all these different names. It's toxins getting into the joints and they inflame. Simple as that. So
you will probably be a little bit more on the spectrum of a little bit more, you'll need a little bit more extreme carnivore because you've got that underlying thing. Like I touch wood, haven't ever had anything like that. So I could probably get away with a little bit more variety.
Definitely.
And still.
Definitely, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I think stop thinking of it as extreme. I'll tell you what's extreme, veganism. I'll tell you what's extreme, cereals, rice, pasta, sweets, fizzy drinks. That's extreme. We'd never have found it in the wild. Carnivore diet isn't extreme, it's basic.
I like it. Better word.
It's basic. It is the ultimate elimination diet. Not everybody needs to stay on it forever. But once you understand that even the superfood veg is incredibly toxic, the seed oil's worst thing you could ever eat. This is invented as machine lubricant. It wasn't even invented as a food. And so people are eating that and thinking it's heart healthy. What happened when people started eating that and stopped eating lard and dripping and butter? And heart attacks exploded. And so they blame that on what we ate for millennia when we never had heart attacks. Amazing. It's a whole con, and you just trace it back to the money. They're very evil psychopaths, I think, up the top of this thing. The big food and the big pharma. Doctors are great. They do it out of goodwill. They mean well, but they are suffering the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Their education is funded and created by big pharma. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They run all the med schools, and of course, it's a business, and they're training salesmen. They're training legalized drug pushers.
Yeah.
And they do it with the best intentions. People go, how can there be a conspiracy that big? It's not really like that. If you see the docs who actually study beyond their med school, like, for example, the carnivore docs like Sean Baker, Anthony Chaffee, Ken Berry, he wrote that book, Lies My Doctor Told Me. And he does that. He does what he does now. He's got a huge YouTube channel, like 3.5 million, I think, now, and he does brilliantly. If you want to see if any ailment is fixable on the carnivore diet, just put Ken Berry and some ailment in, and he'll have done a video or 2 or 3 on it.
Right.
Whether it's kidney disease or anything, really, he'll have done them. And he wrote that book, and I was chatting to him on my podcast a while back, and he, I was asking him about this mysterious thing that happened where that book became a huge bestseller. And wasn't it weird that his practice burned down and his house within about 3 months after?
Wow. So they're on to him then.
Yeah, they didn't like that. They didn't like that coming out because he really hit on a load of things in that book that were bollocks. And he says that he does these things now to apologize for the harm he did when he was a doc and giving out these meds. And the docs have that kind of attitude, these great docs like Sean and Anthony and Ken and Sophia and, all of these docs who've researched beyond their med school brainwashing. And then there's a lot of stuff, the biophysics stuff, biochemistry. It's very useful to explain these processes. And I know some of it, but I prefer to just talk about what's actually practical. Because I don't want to sound like a doc. I have the unique experience of having been through this.
Experience rather than academia almost.
Yeah, I mean, I know the scientific side of it, of why these things work, but I would say to people, if you want to study diet, don't listen to any diet gurus, none of them. Go out there and look at what an animal eats in the wild to find out what its natural diet is, right? So go and look at what tribes eat, look what humans eat in the wild, study anthropology, and study plant toxins, and study deuterium. And you study those 3 things, and then you tell me what you should be eating. It's going to be incredibly obvious. And the things that we get given, it's like there's another myth, the vitamin C. In fact, some vegan attacked me this morning saying, oh, well, you've got to sort out the microbiome. If you look at my Substack, I've done a long Substack recently on the lies about the microbiome. But he was saying, you'll get scurvy. Like 10 years in, I've had no plant source of vitamin C. I don't have scurvy. How is that possible? I'll tell you how it's possible. That carbs compete for the same pathway as vitamin C. And so if you don't eat any carbohydrates, they assume there's no vitamin C in meat, but there's actually quite a lot.
Is there?
Easily enough. And if you eat liver, there's way more than enough. And so the Inuit never got scurvy because they had fresh meat. Oh, but the sailors got scurvy because they never had limes and vegetables. And no, the sailors got scurvy because they had, what was it called? Hardtack, these biscuits and dried meat with no fat in it. So there's nothing in there. That's why they got scurvy. And the old ship's captains knew that if they found them some fresh meat, it would not only prevent scurvy, but actually reverse it when it started. They didn't need all the lime juice and stuff.
Right.
And so, meat is a cure for scurvy. It's not, and all the vegan docs are still going, they're going to get scurvy. Well, hello, guys. When exactly am I going to get scurvy? No, if you eat like that with absolutely zero vitamin C and a load of carbohydrates, you will get scurvy in a few months. 10 years? How is that possible?
Interesting.
Oh, but I must be lying. I must be supplementing. I must be no. In fact, don't supplement with vitamin C. That is one of the things another thing that will give you kidney stones to prove that it's sort of endogenous oxalates. Yeah, just don't do any supplements. If you do eat the fewer plants you eat, the fewer supplements you need to counteract the effects of the plants that are in your diet. I would say, don't believe me. If anybody's got this far and thinks this is a bit weird, look, a carnivore diet try it for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
If you're healthy, try it for 30 days. If you've got some issue, try it for 90 days. But if you've got some issue, make sure it's high fat. Don't just eat lean meat. That's not going to work. But even a vegan diet's not going to kill you in that time. So give it a go. What have you got to lose? I mean, obviously the vegans have a real problem with the ethical and moral thing when that's nonsense because of the crop deaths. The devastation that happens, not specifically for a vegan diet, but for anybody who eats crops and condones that, just to go through it really quickly, veganism is not a compassionate diet. And that's what they get so angry about. You're a dirty carnist, you murder. I mean, I get actual death threats on my YouTube channel. They go mad.
Imagine.
So when you actually look at it, my diet is grass-fed beef. That is the most vegan thing on the menu. One animal on pasture, no damage to the ecosystem, no spraying of pesticides, nothing like that. Great life for the animal, humanely killed. That will feed me and my family for a year.
Mm-hmm.
What happens for a vegan diet? For their compassionate tofu salad sandwich? Well, they go in, they plow up all the earth, which ruins it anyway. Even the ploughing process is not good for the earth. They take out all the hedgerows, they cut down trees, they do whatever they do. They ruin the ecosystem, killing all the animals that are there, driving them out of their homes. And then they plant monocrops, which leach the soil of nutrients, deplete the soil. So in a few generations, in a few harvests, actually, they say 50 now, maybe, the soil's going to be completely depleted. They won't even need to be able to eat that crap. So then when they haven't quite killed enough animals by ploughing it all up, then they go in with pesticides and spray that on, which is a horrendous death for billions of wild animals. And it's not just the ones that aren't cute, the vegans don't care about, because they don't, you can kill those snakes and lizards. Vegans don't mind about them. But the cute ones that have been on Disney programs and have been, anthropomorphized is the word, isn't it? They're talking cows and crap like that. So anyway, but what about the deer, foxes, badgers? Go in with the combine harvesters, they'll rip them up. You Google deer caught in combine header, sucked ass first into a combine header, or foxes bailed up with the hay. I mean, this is happening out in the field. Billions and billions of horrendous deaths for your compassionate diet vegans. I'm not just blaming vegans because anybody who has crops. Oh, but all these crops are grown to feed the animals. No, they're not. If we didn't take the fuel oils out of those crops and give the husks to the animals in the appalling factory farms, they would never bother to grow it in the first place. The humans get the first pick of all these crops. And the vegans are always demonstrating outside factory farms. Why don't you think that perhaps if you didn't eat those crops and they weren't given to the poor cows in those situations that make them sick as well, and the pigs and the chickens, all of that, the crops are horrendous after they've damaged all the land and killed all the wild animals. Don't you think that might be grazing land? And those animals might be out of those CAFOs. So vegans, you also cause factory farming. So, this is the main objection to it all. If we could just see through this, and there are a lot of people who've woken up to the sort of machinations and evil of the elites at the moment and the big corporations and whatever they're doing. So what are they doing now? They're pushing plant-based and they're trying to squeeze farmers out. Good
lab-grown meat and stuff.
Yeah, it's not meat, is it? Lab-grown. They call it meat. It's lab-grown, sort of some weird cellular structure that's nothing like
insect
meat.
proteins and shit, apparently.
Yeah. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy, Klaus Schwab, and you'll eat the bugs.
There's a full podcast on that with a friend of mine, Andrew, who explained it beautifully. As much as you know about carnivore, he knows that about the elites in the system. One thing me and you really kind of are on the same wavelength of, and why I really wanted you to come on the podcast also is because of experience. So you mentioned before about, although you know the science side of it, you talk more about the things you've been through and your stories and all that sort of stuff. It's definitely worth experiencing it. So like you mentioned, if anyone's kind of unsure, go and give it a go for 30 days. Go and experience it yourself. And this is something I see because I come from the fitness industry, where pretty much what the fitness industry message is these days is, as long as you're lean, as long as you're in a calorie deficit, like, you don't have to worry about anything to a degree. I followed the fitness industry advice for a long time, and I was doing it well, doing it very thoroughly, very consistently, and I ended up with low testosterone. And then it opened my eyes to what real health was. And I had to, and I always have kind of, but I had to really go and experience these different things. And just before, when you said go on experience, kind of after 30 days, well, I'm about 30 something days in to carnivore, so I'll give you my feedback. I always had a big priority on mental clarity. For me, with work, clients, even doing this, mental clarity is up there with my top priority of what I want out of how I feel. And I must say, it's probably never been better. Energy, mental energy, more than physical. I can kind of just get up and do something physically if I have to, but when I'm mentally tired, I then have to just switch off from work, and I'm like, okay, I'm drained. That mental energy tank is a lot bigger. Some people I know will be wondering, well, what about your gym performance? Because I haven't ate a carbohydrate in God knows how long. Well, I've actually got stronger.
Wow. It usually takes longer than that. Usually people suffer a dip to start with as the body starts to run on fat properly. But yeah, and the mental the brain loves ketones. You know, if you're on ketones, the whole Alzheimer's thing, you see this reversing when people stop. It's because it's type 3 diabetes. The brain can no longer cope with that much glucose. And so they got them in the old folks' homes, giving them sugary tea and biscuits and jellies and pizzas and God knows what. They're never going to get better. But if you put them on a keto diet, there's a great interview. If you put Anthony Chaffee and Alzheimer's into YouTube, you'll find an interview with this guy who's got a residential home for these folks, and he's just bringing them back to life by putting them on a keto diet.
Wow.
As long as the brain can not run on glucose, you put ketones in there and get them running on ketones, they come back to life. And it's so sad because they say that the drug that they give out for Alzheimer's doesn't work, and yet people still buy it out of desperation.
It's funny,
it doesn't work.
You go, let's say you get Alzheimer's, you get them given drugs for Alzheimer's, and it is fun. Like, so many people I've spoke to get drugs. Like, I've got a client with rheumatoid arthritis now, and she's been to every rheumatologist, so here, there, and everywhere. All the drugs, different things here and there. None of it worked. She's still got rheumatoid arthritis. Clients with who are on antidepressants, still majorly depressed, but they are taking antidepressants. It clearly, okay, at some points, yeah, maybe needed, but it's very clear that when the doctors often give you drugs and pharmaceuticals, it doesn't solve anything.
Yeah. The mental thing is amazing too, because there's a huge gut-brain connection. When we see depression lifting, we see schizophrenia, bipolar, all of these things can be healed up once you heal the gut. It's all a matter of toxicity and inflammation in the brain. And there's Rachel Brown, Dr. Rachel Brown. She calls herself the carnivore shrink. And see some interviews with her. I've had her on my podcast too. But she goes into, all this. She's like an NHS psychiatrist, but she's looked beyond it and realized what happens. And her colleagues think she's a bit mad, but the results she gets are amazing. And you can fix type 3 diabetes, which is Alzheimer's.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
You're certainly right with the gut brain thing, because again, I kind of learned the hard way with that. With the low testosterone, I compromised my digestive system, which then was pulling my testosterone down, which then was pulling my mood down. Now, my testosterone wasn't super low, but I was certainly feeling the effects mentally. Yeah. You know what I mean? But without going on too many tangents, you mentioned we've talked about toxins, we've talked about oxalates, we've mentioned inflammation, hormone disruptors. Now, in the fitness industry, again, these well, almost everything's a hormone disruptor, and it's kind of all pushed to one side. And as long as you've got a calorie deficit and you're not overweight and you're lean, everything will be all right. And I know for a fact it's just bullshit. So, hormone disruptors, do we need to be scared of them? Is the water that you're drinking from a plastic bottle going to kill you? Like, how can we get a bit of common sense out of all this stuff?
Well, there are many things that are hormone disruptors, and if you want to avoid them, really, you have to give up all plants because they will all affect the hormones in some way. I mean, the real worst ones are things like soy.
Mm-hmm.
Soy is horrendous, and it's in everything. Give up milk, drink soy milk. I mean,
increases estrogen, doesn't it?
Yeah, my mum's oncologist. I once asked him, "Do you actually even say anything to people about diet and cancer?" Because I said, "This is an oncology department, and you've got machines there full of, lectins, seed oils, like basically crisps and chips, and chocolate and biscuits and things like that. Sugary drinks. This is a cancer ward." I never thought about that, he said. He actually said, "I never thought about it." And I said, "Well, do you ever give anybody any advice?" And he said, "Oh, yes," he said proudly. "I do tell them to not drink any cow's milk, but to drink soy milk." I just burst out laughing because, I mean, cow's milk isn't that great anyway, but soy milk? And he's just told me that my mum's got a hormonally driven tumour. And I said, soy is the worst hormone disruptor there is. Oh, really? He had no idea. They don't get taught these things. And so, yeah, there are a lot of things out there that really do disrupt the hormones. But I think that you just need to look at what we ate in the wild. There are certain things, there's not so many bad things in fruit, for example. Seasonal berries, what the hell? If you're healthy, why not?
Mm-hmm.
They have some fructose, which is not ideal. They have some deuterium. But because they have the fructose, nature puts more vitamin C in, right? Because it competes with the carbohydrate, so you need more. Nature knows what it's doing the whole time. You don't need to study all these things. Why does it give you berries in the sun? Because there's deuterium in there, high deuterium, which is a substance that gets in it's an extra molecule on hydrogen, extra isotope on the hydrogen molecule. So it's D2O rather than H2O. Heavy water, it can, if you're drinking high deuterium water, eating high deuterium foods, you can block up the mitochondria. That's another kind of cancer thing. You get very low deuterium water if you can get it. It's very expensive unless you live in high altitude glacial water or in the Antarctic maybe. But if you can get low deuterium water, then people are fixing cancer on that just by taking down the deuterium levels. So the sunlight helps deplete deuterium. And so you can see how nature works. That's why I say study anthropology, plant toxins, and deuterium. And then you can see how the whole circadian cycle, this beautiful cycle of nature, whether it's the seasons or the light, as you go through the day, all of these are designed to work perfectly with the food. A great expression that Jack Kruse has: if the light that goes in your eyes doesn't match the food that goes into your stomach, you're going to get mitochondrial disruption. So, for example, the people who eat paleo diet, just avoid grains and dairy. Yeah, all right, people will get benefits on that. But that makes a banana paleo. It's a fruit that doesn't really exist in the wild. And if somebody's eating that in the north of England, under artificial light, in the middle of winter, in the middle of the night, playing on their PlayStation or something.
It's not that healthy.
This is not a health food whatsoever. Not at all. So, but bananas are full of potassium. No, actually, the peel is full of potassium. The bananas aren't. And they're full of anti-nutrients and a load of deuterium and fiber. And so the nutrients in there are not even bioavailable because they're wrapped up in indigestible cellulose, which we call fiber and say it's healthy. Well, anyway, and the other myth is calories.
Let's go there because this is the world I live in.
Yeah. Now, I can't go into this too much. I just know it's bullshit. Now, if anybody wants to know about calories, go and listen to my friend Bart Kay, Professor Bart Kay. Nobody knows more about diet and biochemistry than him. His channel is hilarious. He swears and he Fs and blinds and he's very funny. And he's actually really sweet behind the scenes, a lovely guy. But if somebody's wrong on the internet, as he says, now who's wrong on the interwebs today? And he's going to go for them. And he runs their videos and then keeps stopping it every couple of words.
Yeah.
And really goes to them, and it's quite hilarious. Some people find it very annoying, but he really understands. But if you look at him and calories and find out what calories, it's just a measurement of heat. It doesn't bear any relation to what you've eaten. Calorie deficit, it's all bullshit. They're good calories, bad calories, like that book, I think it was Gary Taubes, was it? But if you can see my before and after pic, which you can't see now, but you find it somewhere probably on some of the talks I've done. But you can see a big fat bastard. And I was eating basically a lacto-ovo vegetarian diet, 2,500 calories a day, doing loads of mountain biking, loads of training in the gym. But I'd obviously broken my insulin because I couldn't stay reasonably lean like I could do doing the same thing at the end of the 90s. Eventually, as we get older, it gets more difficult to do these things. You can get away with a lot more when you're younger. And then I got really crippled with psoriatic arthritis, so I couldn't move. I couldn't do any of that exercise. And okay, I was eating a few veg here and there, but I was really stuffing myself. My body was just craving so much nutrition. And I was probably eating 4,000 calories, so to speak, of fatty meat a day. And I ended up dropping 90 pounds with no exercise whatsoever. How did that happen? Because everything we've been told is absolute bullshit. Now, here's the real simple thing. Anybody who's watching this, forget about tracking stuff. Forget about any of this stuff. Go down to the gym, lift real heavy, real abbreviated if you want to grow. And this sounds crap because look at me and look at Kieran now. He's the guy who knows what he's talking about. No, but I do. I used to be well into this, and that was my like even writing for bodybuilding magazines.
I can almost back you up straight away. Like even just over the last 30 days, I have tracked because I've been curious to know how much food I kind of naturally want to eat, but I could certainly do without. It makes you going on the carnivore diet makes you more in tune with your body, because when you're eating fatty meat, like you feel full so much quicker and easier and satisfied, and you don't crave. And it's when you start eating shit, let's say, that you want more of it. You mentioned last time on the last podcast about
palatable foods, those ones we get addicted to.
Pringles, they're
pop, you can't stop.
And I thought, you know what, that's absolutely a nail on the
Pringles, head. Cancer in a can. Yeah, absolutely horrendous.
Once you pop, you can't stop. With steak, you don't finish it and think, I just want some more, And you have that gluttonous, you don't get that. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, the whole leptin signaling thing, when your leptin's broken, which is the master hormone they didn't even discover until the 90s. Mm-hmm. And so leptin tells us when we're full. And most people are leptin resistant in the same way as they're insulin resistant. But if you're leptin resistant, you're likely to end up insulin resistant because you eat loads of hyperpalatable foods. Mixtures of carbs and fats. Every hyperpalatable food, every addictive food is a mixture of carbs and fats. And so that doesn't happen in nature. Mm-hmm. It happens in milk, in dairy, which is another problem with dairy. So it happens in the species appropriate milk when you're young enough to drink it. Mm-hmm. That's fine, to grow a small animal into a large animal. Once you're an adult, not so good. Addictive. Cheese is addictive. I could eat cheese all day long without stopping, even on its own. Once you put it with biscuits or something, totally addictive. Mm-hmm. Pizza, ice cream, chocolate, crisps, chips. All of these things are a mixture of carbs and fats.
Yeah.
And that's why they're addictive, because it doesn't happen in nature. A little bit sometimes in nuts, but they're only seasonal and there's not that much. Designed to put a bit of fat on for the winter, that's fine. But there is a real secret. Once you're on a carnivore diet and you've got rid of the food addictions, your leptin's in balance, there's a real secret to exactly how much to eat. You eat when you're hungry and you stop when you're full. Mm-hmm. You don't count calories. Yeah. You don't do anything. You just adjust fat and protein ratios according to your taste and your goals. Very, very high fat if you're healing the gut. Mm-hmm. Then after that, you don't need to do such high fat. Like a good fatty ribeye is good enough. When you're healing the gut, a fatty ribeye with a hell of a lot of tallow on it as well is what you want. Really, really fatty. A third fat by sight to 2/3 lean meat on the plate. That is something, if anybody's autoimmune listening to that, Remember that, a third fat by sight on the plate to 2/3 lean meat. That is a secret I've given you. I could just mention that and you kind of gloss over it as not important. The difference between success and failure in autoimmunity is getting the fat ratios right. But if you're not autoimmune, if you're reasonably healthy, or if you've been on carnivore for a while, just according to taste. Some days I want really, really fatty meat. Sometimes not so fatty.
Mm-hmm.
But I find, if I've trained, which I've just started doing again, because the carnivore diet keeps you lean. But after being sitting next to people like Kieran and Anthony Chafee in Spain, I think really I should stop being so lazy and do some training again, because you can't put fat on a carnivore diet. It's pretty much impossible. If you're a guy and you're not eating dairy, let's put it that way. There are ways you can. But so the only option is to train if you want to get any weight up at all. And you just feel so good on it. The inflammation goes down. You get lazy and get busy, and stuff happens. I've got young
you find
kids
it's almost like you don't need to train because you're lean because of your diet.
Yeah. But yeah, I could definitely do with some more muscle, particularly in my legs, which got really damaged again in 2022, where I lost my quads again. After being completely fucked for 3 months. And it's amazing how quickly everything disappears. I lost 45 pounds that I didn't need to lose. And that was just over that winter. But I had complete confidence. I knew how to get out of it. I knew what I'd done. Whereas it took me about 3 years before. So it took me about 3 months this time. But there's a big lesson that even as a carnivore, if you're autoimmune, you've got to watch it. And once the gut's healed, you want to eat some pork, chicken, dairy, or eggs now and again? Yeah. No bother. You do that every day, give it 3 months, you'll be back to square one. Be careful.
This is something I was talking to a client about as well, with reintroducing foods back in.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to go quite basic, not strict, and then gradually introduce foods in. Now, my thought process at the time was reintroduce a little bit and have that for a period of time, like 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks, before you then reintroduce something else, because I presume it's going to be the accumulation effect that will determine whether you can kind of have that food without symptoms or you can't have that food with symptoms, if that makes sense. Is that a wise way to go about it? Because I know, like, some people may eat some, let's say, dairy and think, oh, I'm fine. Okay, well, I can just start piling that in. I'll add some extra in. And then this second thing they may add in, they may get a symptom, but it's actually from the accumulation effect of the dairy they've added in. You know what I mean? So how would someone go about adding in different foods once they've healed the gut and they're now kind of want to start to increase variety?
Well, if you listen to Paleomedicina on that, they have they would say never grains, never seed oils, never dairy, but some seasonal fruit. I mean, you see, the things that you would be given in nature more than 10,000 years ago at your location and latitude and season are probably absolutely fine. So there would always have been fish and meat available. And so if you're in the north of England like we are, in the autumn you might get some berries and some nuts, but not much anywhere else. If you're nearer the equator, you'll get more things, but still nowhere near as many plant foods as people think. So actually, some of these plant foods like berries and whatever are less harmful than some of the chicken that's been fed crap. So, because that's just walking corn. Chickens are little dinosaurs. They eat bugs, they eat rats and mice. They're crazy things. And when they're fed corn, this is a free-range chicken. It's corn fed. Leave it on the shelf.
What is it about chicken we should look for then if someone was going to be wanting to eat it?
Look, that type of chicken that has horns and 4 legs, right? Look for that type of chicken. No, seriously. I don't think there's really any good chicken these days, unless you actually keep your own and let them actually forage wild. If you're feeding them grains, they're just the same as the ones in the shops.
Right.
Oh, they're organic. Yeah, it's just been fed organic stuff it's not designed for. And the pigs have been fed crap too. So it's not such a simple question as to what to introduce. I mean, on the face of it, I would say that if you're in a healing phase and you're having some organ meats, which is your vitamin pill, don't eat too much. You can get in trouble with them. But say a pound of liver a week alongside your fatty beef and lamb, with some bone broth maybe if you don't have any histamine issues, and so lots of tallow, lots of fats from the tallow, then you're doing great. Now, one of the things that is like great nutrition that you can introduce is egg yolks. Egg yolks are great, but they can be a little bit inflammatory for people with leaky gut, even that. Egg whites, waste of time. We're always told, oh, you can't have the egg yolks because it's all cholesterol, and that's not how the body works. Only eat the whites. No, that's just, what does the chick eat? The yolk, right? The white is just basically an airbag to stop it bumping into the side of the shell. So, okay, it's protein, but there are certain proteins in there that are really quite inflammatory. And the proteins that get through that cause inflammation are, the things that get through to cause inflammation are generally proteins, which are like the glutens and things like that, which wreck the gut in the first place. So to reintroduce, I would say, to be safe, if you're totally healed, what would you have eaten at this latitude? Because it's all tied in with light and everything. It's
just my last question about light. So
yeah,
perfect.
It's just to do that's it. It's just to do with learning how nature works. Ignore all the gurus, ignore all the studies, ignore all this crap, and have a look at how nature works. I mean, when can you reintroduce dairy? Do what you like. I'm not militant. Do exactly what you like. And if you get on well with dairy and you're absolutely fine, maybe it might contribute to a tumour sometime in 20 years, or maybe you might get away with it because you do everything else right. The Maasai don't have cancer, and they live on blood, milk and meat. So, but the slight issues that the Maasai do have, I would say probably down to the dairy they eat, but they drink, the milk, which other tribes don't tend to. But they've been forced away from their hunting grounds. They're still a hell of a lot more healthy than Westerners doing that, until the ugali and the seed oils come in, and then they're just as fat as us. But so it's not just a simple question. There's other factors. I mean, the things, okay, if you want to put it just in food terms, yeah, go fully carnivore, go high fat, beef and lamb if you want. Really basic. Reset everything. See how amazing you feel. And then reintroduce some egg yolks. Then reintroduce some chicken. Reintroduce some pork. And just do it one thing per week, something like that. And then seasonal things. That would be the kind of thing that you could do. But really, when you look at nature, what would be available now? Where are you? What the light that goes in your eyes? It's like, what food does it determine? What's out at the moment because of the light?
Nature is the only. It's like nature is the only study that you need. Because again, I think I mentioned on the last podcast about, for every study that says eating meat is healthy, there's one that says vegan is healthy, and for every study that says bottled water is completely fine, there's one that says it's going to kill you, and there's almost every single thing you could question: is that good or bad, healthy or not healthy? There's a study to back both.
The funny thing is, actually, there are no studies on veganism being healthy. The vegans co-opt the vegetarian studies, where people come off a really bad diet and tons of drinking and smoking, and then they go vegetarian and probably give up the drinking and smoking, and they start some exercise, and they do a load of other things called healthy user bias, and they do that, and then they have certain improvements. But compared to what, as Anthony Chaffee always says, and they're always fudged. It's nothing really. If you actually see the studies coming out on carnivore now, wow, they're amazing.
I bet.
Yeah, and the keto diet, close to carnivore, and it's the most studied diet ever in studies, and the results are amazing. But you never see that in the mainstream because it would blow up all the big food studies that they want to tell you that eating plant-based stuff is better than the standard diet, because then they catch you in the other stuff as well, you see. Because I think probably the evil corporations own most of the supplement companies as well, because they're bloody useless. They're full of deuterium, they're full of fillers that make the gut leaky, and you don't want to be, and they're not stuff that the body recognises, because it's artificial versions of these minerals and herbs and vitamins and all that crap, put together in the wrong amount, so they're all fighting against each other anyway. Just stop it. Just get out of Holland and Barrett. There's a couple of useful things in Holland and Barrett, probably 2 useful things, and that's it. The rest of it's rubbish.
I once seen something that Holland and Barrett is apparently owned by Russian mafia. How true, I don't know, but I thought it was quite, oh well.
You never know.
You mentioned deuterium quite a lot. We've mentioned light quite a lot as well. So I'm a big fan of light. Almost every morning now I'm sat with my salt water, just taking it in the sun. And I actually sent a message to someone who was asking about it today on social media. I literally feel my body increase in energy after 15 minutes of sitting. And like I get out of bed in the morning and I'm not exactly exhausted, not super tired, but I'm tired end of the scale. I've just woke up and I'll go down and I'll sit in the sun until I feel, right, I'm almost buzzing now. I'll get up and start my day. So that's my experience. What is deuterium and how important is sunlight?
Well, yeah, deuterium is that extra isotope on hydrogen, the D2O, rather than H2O, which makes for heavier water. It's a sort of water at about 155 parts per million. If the body's level of deuterium is like 130 or lower per million, then you're pretty safe. You're pretty okay. It sounds like only a small difference, but it's enough to block up enough mitochondria to cause problems. So high deuterium foods in nature, fruit, but that's fine because it's given to you in the season it's supposed to be given to you in. High deuterium foods are all the processed foods. Seed oils. You can deplete deuterium when it comes in via carbohydrates, but I was chatting to Laszlo Boros, who is probably the world's leading researcher into deuterium, along with Gabor Shomlai. I've had them both on the podcast. But Laszlo was saying one time that once you take deuterium in from seed oils, you can't get it out. And seed oils are very high in deuterium.
Really?
And yeah, horrendous things. And then the cell has to be blown up and die from, apoptosis or whatever before you get rid of it. But you can actually kind of deplete it from carbs, as nature's intended. It brings it in via fruit and whatever. So all the processed food, the grains, very high in deuterium. What's really low in deuterium? Animal fats. Really low in deuterium. And if you eat animal fats, it causes the cells to make their own deuterium depleted water, which is the best form of hydration, like a camel with the fat in its hump. And that's how it hydrates itself in the desert. The hump's not full of water or anything. It's fatty. and now with our diet, high fat carnivore diet, that will hydrate the body beautifully with low deuterium water within the cell. And that's why when you eat a lot of animal fats, you don't need to drink as much. This is another myth. We need to drink a load of water. We don't. We always drink too much water. And Laszlo used to do courses called Washing Away Your Health. And people drink loads of water and it washes out the minerals. It fills you full of extra deuterium because and plastic now, with those bottles. We always get glass bottled spring water or do our own distilled. And that seems to be very nice. And just don't drink any more than your thirst. And the higher fat that you have, the less water you'll want to drink. If you're eating a load of carbs all the time, then you'll want to drink a load of water. And then you're taking in a huge amount of deuterium. So that causes unusual cell replication and chaos. And light. I mean, everything in nature runs on light, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. The seasons run on light. Everything does. And when you see with the battery chickens, they keep them under strip lights like we are now. We'll probably start laying eggs in a minute, but They make.
I'm looking forward to getting back outside of this.
And they make the chickens lay eggs around the clock because they leave them on because it disrupts their hormones. So you were talking about hormonal disruption, blue light from computers, EMFs, strip lights. This is a huge hormonal disruption. The amount of breast cancer that women get who work nights, very high. And so if you're not sleeping properly, you've not got decent sleep, however well you eat, you're not going to be healing an autoimmune condition. You need to be sleeping right too. And so, Jack Cruz, who is the one to look into of this, or Sarah Pugh, Dr. Sarah Pugh, she's a great friend of mine. She's been on my podcast. She's amazing at explaining this. Sarah Pugh, well worth listening to on all the light, quantum biology, light water magnetism, all of that kind of thing, which is at the root of everything really. So when you get the light right, you get out in the morning, you get grounded, you get barefoot on the grass, get the early morning light in your eyes. Like Jack Cruz says, never miss a sunrise. So that resets the body, and it resets, well, what it does is it shows you what time of day it is. The fact that you got to start the cortisol cycle and produce melatonin. Now, melatonin doesn't get released then, it gets produced then, so that when in the evening, you cut all the blue lights in your house, all the white lights, the LEDs, you get some little red bulbs on. We've got, when we did the last podcast, we were sitting in front of the boa constrictor cage at my house. the one that we lost. But we just put the lights on red in there, little LEDs on red in the 3 snake cage. That's all the light in the living room. It's you hardly see, you know. And that's what you want in the evening. And then, but a lot of people will do that. Oh, I put my blue blockers on. I don't look at my screen on my phone, but I still can't sleep. Are you getting out in the morning? No. Well, I wake up in the morning, I check my phone. Midday. You know, it's made your body think it's midday without any blockers on it. You know, like you should always have Iris on the computer, that kind of thing. If you go to Phil Escott, my Substack, we'll put the links underneath to these things.
List, yeah.
And you'll find out. There's find a Substack on tips for better sleep or something, but how to hack the house for light, because we don't have really time to go into that completely now. But yeah, if you get the light right, hugely helps everything. It's how nature works. So get the light right and understand that, and seasons and anthropology and deuterium and plant toxins, and you'll find that you'll just eat meat, unless you're really addicted to food and you've not got sick yet and you don't have that that kind of motivation, which I didn't. You know, sometimes you need to get that sick to have that motivation.
You have to do it. Yeah. It is definitely a case. So in this day and age of removal is better than addition, isn't it?
Totally.
That's why when I seen your autoimmune course called the subtraction method, I was like, I love it. I love the title straight away, because it's. I've been down the route of, I've got this issue, I'll add this in. I've got that issue, I'll add this in, and I'm adding this in to do. And it was just forever ongoing of addition. And in life in general, like outside of diet, like I'm a big fan of silence. We live in a world where it's always somewhere to be, always something to do, and it's always busy, productiveness, this, that. So it's like, okay, well, what if I do the opposite and I just do absolutely fuck all for 10 minutes apart from breathe? And it's the best 10 minutes you'll have in a long time, I really believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll finish on, mate, your upcoming events. You have, the Ancestral Health Festival?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, we have that in Rainford, which is Merseyside in England, in August. And you can find that at ancestralhealthfestival.com. We've got some wonderful speakers speaking. Some of the people I mentioned today, some of my proper heroes and friends. And Natasha Campbell-McBride is coming down, and David and Jen Unwin, these amazing diabetes specialists who are GPs who work in a practice in Southport, who
Southport.
They're just blowing up everybody's all their diabetic patients' troubles without drugs. And Sarah Pugh will be there. I'll be talking there. I'll also be playing drums with the Daz Band, and we'll have different music each night. And there's also camping there, glamping. There's we've got fire pits for cooking your own meat, and workshops like natural movement, breath work, that kind of thing. So it's a lot of fun. Come down and hang out there. Very informal one. I don't like these conferences where you end up talk after talk under artificial light, and then you end up in the foyer because you're so sick of them and just want to go and hang out and meet people. It's like our Spanish one that's sold out now. It's our sort of flagship one with Anthony Chafee and again Natasha Campbell-McBride and Mary Ruddick, who I didn't mention, who's been on my podcast. So we really got to listen to her. She goes around all the tribes and lives with them, the really remote tribes, and she really knows what they eat.
Wow.
After being bedridden for 8 odd years after vegan damage. Wow. And went carnivore, and now she gets all over the world to all of these places, and they just eat meat. But absolutely check that out. Come down there, get booked early, because the places are limited. Spain's sold out. But apart from that, if you are autoimmune, you've been listening to this, please grab my course or come and have a consult with me, or both. Because
for the price, I think you're daft. I think you're silly charging only 99 quid, I think it is, right?
I know.
I seen it, I was like, wow. For what information you've got and experience.
Well, I tell you what it does. If somebody had given me that course, it would have saved me probably half my inheritance from my dad, tens of thousands of pounds, sick and trying to wade my way through all this knowledge.
Yeah.
What works and what actually doesn't. And years of research. I was stuck on the sofa just doing all this research. You want me to distill it for you? It's in there. And 99
I'll be doing it myself.
Yeah. And or come and get a consult. It's always good to get a consult first, have a course to refer to, but happy to do consults. Yeah, and there's my book, the best. Oh, that's on Audible now. So it's the audio book. That's quite entertaining. It's just my healing journey in all the different levels. There's all stuff about spirituality and awakening and all sorts of stuff in there about that. But it is quite a comedy section as well, that book. But it is on Audible now. But the links will be underneath. But come to our events because they're amazing. You know, when you meet people like this, or get onto my Substack and get on the weekly calls. You know, I do them on, for the paying members of Substack. It's only $19 a month. God, what do I do this for? And to get support, and often people are very lonely in this, and everybody around them thinks they're mad. And they don't get the support. Everybody tells them they're nuts. The doctor's going to tell them their cholesterol's going to be high, which is exactly where you want it. We didn't get into that, but the whole cholesterol thing's a myth. And it's a con to sell statins that then will give you Alzheimer's. But to get some support from people who are on the same part of the journey, that's great too. And just check out the links underneath. Go to my link tree. Kieran will put them underneath, I guess. And come along. See you soon.
Talking about books, I have another present. It is my book, which I wrote on my first ayahuasca ceremony.
Oh, excellent, man.
So you can talk about spirituality in books and all that. That's direct from above.
I will really look forward to that.
I never thought I would ever write a book, and I still don't
They say there's one in everybody, don't they?
Well, yeah, that's certainly mine, and I don't even like to take credit for it because I feel like it wasn't me that done it. The information came from above, the title, everything. So
now we're getting into the whole thing of the Akashic record and collective consciousness.
Fantastic.
We could go on for another 3 hours.
We'll save that for another one. But Phil, thank you very much for coming down. It's been a pleasure. I can't wait to get this out and get some feedback because I know it's going to be a good one.
Thank you very much, mate. And thank you so much for selling me your car. And I get to drive home in my car, one that actually works.
Because where you go, I need a lift.